But this is the point. That is, I was thinking rather the opposite. Instead of you assuring the Iranians should be assuring the Iraqis as to, I mean, we look today at the situation in the southern part of Iraq, in Basra and in the neighborhood. We see tremendous, not just there, tremendous Iranian influence, and it is extensive in just about in every walk of life. So what is it that Iraq can do in order to limit Iran's influence in Iraq? And we know how Iranian ambitions in that regard.
Well, it's a matter of mutual assurance. I agree with you. They have to assure us, and we have to assure them. But we don't rely on verbal assurances. I can tell you that, because we go there. I have been to Tehran on high-level missions in the early days, and they speak sweetly, and they tell us everything we want to hear. By the time we come to Baghdad, we discover they're doing exactly the opposite.
The opposite, exactly right.
So we don't rely on just verbal assurances. We have hit hard the groups that they have trained and have used to create trouble in Iraq. In the Prime Minister's move in Basra, the Iraqi security forces really smashed many of their networks. Even their consul in Basra was expelled, and he sort of ran for the border. So we make it clear that we will not tolerate interference, and we use all the means that are at our disposal. It's an American president who said, "Speak softly," and he was
carry big stick.
Carry big stick. So in reality, we have to stand up for ourselves, and they understand. And let me quote another example, recent example. The Iranians did not want Iraq to sign a security agreement with the United States. They put all kinds of pressure on Iraqi politicians not to do so. Yet, the agreements were signed. And that sent a very clear signal that the Iraqis are capable of being independent and making their own decisions.
Yeah, but this is true, and we know this is exactly what happened. On the other hand, Iraq today, as in talking to many Iraqis, and what we discern also from various sources, there's still tremendous concern among Iraqis that Iran actually is rather still very ambitious. Iran is pursuing possibly nuclear weapon. How do you feel about the potential threat and Iran almost determination to become a regional hegemon? What Iraq is going to do, how Iraq is going to be responding to that?
Well, we respond by being strong ourselves, by consolidating our political process, our institutions, our security forces, our cohesive political scene. There were people who were saying, the Shia in Iraq are automatically loyal to Iran. They are the fifth column inside Iraq. That's wrong. The Iraqi Shia are as fiercely independent as the Sunnis. They fought the Iranians with the Sunnis in the war during the
against Iran.
Against Iran.
That's right.
And let me just remind you that Shia as a sect was founded in Iraq. The Vatican of Shiism is in Najaf.
In Najaf,
yes.
That's
well, the Iranians are trying to shift it to Qom. And there are two different schools of Shiism. And the one in Iraq does not follow the one in the Khomeini one in Qom, which believes in theocracy, basically.
But that being said, to what extent do you feel that, after all, Iran provided and offered refuge to many Shiite leaders throughout the Saddam Hussein era? To what extent do you think this affinity to Iran in that respect is it playing any role in today's relationship between the two countries?
Well, a lot of these very Shia leaders who sought refuge in Iran lived in Iran, some of them for 20 years without learning to speak Persian. And, and they come back and feel more Iraqi. I've spoken to many of them. The fact that they recognize that Iran did them a good turn. They recognize that Iran took them in, sheltered them, and helped them. But they are no less Iraqis for that.
And then, nevertheless, now, how alarmed are you now that Iran effectively is pursuing a nuclear program and may very well achieve and master the technology to produce nuclear weapon? Where do you feel, how do you feel about that possible development?
We are as alarmed as our neighbors. Iraq has always pursued a policy of seeking to have a nuclear-free Middle East. We believe in that. We believe that nuclear weapons anywhere in the Middle East is destabilizing and is a threat to all people in the area.
But do you feel that suppose Iran would be able to sooner or than later?
That would trigger a race.
Would Iraq attempt to enter that race?
No, we are prevented by our new constitution from seeking that. Our new constitution precludes us seeking weapons of mass destruction. But I fear that other states who are not so limited by their constitutions will or might very well look into that option.